Hello, and welcome to another episode in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. My name is Jason Perkins. I'm an attorney who specializes in handling Georgia workers' compensation cases. I created this series of videos to provide people who've been hurt at work in Georgia with helpful information about Georgia's workers' compensation laws and the benefits they should receive under those laws. Now, let's jump straight into today's topic. Today, in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series, I want to speak with you about workers' compensation surgeries in a Georgia workers' compensation claim. Unfortunately, many serious work-related injuries require some form of surgery in order for you to recover. This video is going to focus on three of the areas that you should be concerned about when you need surgery as a result of a workers' compensation injury. Now, the first topic I want to focus on is getting surgery approved. Now, that happens actually before you're going to have the surgery. You'd think this would be a non-issue in a Georgia workers' compensation case. You suffer an injury at work. You treat with the authorized workers' compensation doctor. That authorized workers' compensation doctor recommends that you have surgery. You think the insurance company would just get this approved without an issue. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Georgia workers' compensation insurance companies often deny approval of surgeries in workers' compensation cases. This often happens either because the insurance company just doesn't give an answer to the workers' compensation doctor about whether the surgery is approved, or they do give an answer and tell the doctor that the surgery is going to be denied. Either one of these approaches results in your workers' compensation surgery being delayed. Now, there are several different options for how you can deal with that delay in order to get the surgery approved. There are options that involve calling the insurance adjuster or emailing them to try to get approval over to the doctor's offices. There's forms that are put out by the State Board of Workers' Compensation. There's a Form WC-PMT and a Form WC-205 that can be used to try to ask for approval from the surgery and get that surgery approval delivered to the workers' compensation doctor. There are also the options of either filing a motion or requesting a hearing with the Georgia workers' compensation judge to get an order that the surgery's been approved. Now, each one of these different options has different pros and cons. The best method for you or an attorney representing you to take is going to depend on the specific facts of your case. Now, the second thing I'd like to talk to you about is recovering and returning to work after you have a surgery. This obviously happens after the surgery has been done. When you have surgery, the doctor is likely going to take you out of work for some period of time. But whether it's weeks or months later, the doctor is going to say that you can return to some type of work. Now, often this may be a non-issue for you. You may just be able to go straight back to work without a problem. But sometimes returning to work can be a problem. There's a few different situations where that can happen. I'm going to mention a few of them here. One is where even after you've had surgery, whether that surgery's been successful or unsuccessful, you're still unable to physically do the job that you were doing before you had surgery. Now, I have many clients in this situation that suffer from serious back injuries or knee injuries or shoulder injuries. When their jobs are very physical, sometimes even when surgery is successful, they still can't return to the type of work that they did before. Another situation comes up is when your employer lets you go from your job. So you're no longer working for your employer. In this situation, even though the doctor said you can go back to work, you don't have a job to return to the employer you got hurt with. And a third situation is where your employer puts you in a light duty job when the doctor releases you, and that job pays you less money. Now, like any type of law, Georgia workers' compensation law has its technicalities associated with it. When you're hurt at work, these technicalities really can hurt you if you're not careful. In the three situations I mentioned above, the order of events can have a drastic effect on whether you receive benefits for your lost wages when you are unable to work or making less money as a result of work-related injury. Being prepared and fully understanding Georgia's workers' compensation law can help you avoid some nasty surprises. The third situation associated with a workers' compensation surgery that I want to talk to you about is receiving a permanent partial disability rating, when you reach what's called maximum medical improvement, which is sometimes abbreviated as MMI. Most surgeries that people have performed after workers' compensation injuries do not result in them recovering 100%. Sometimes they may get 85, 90, 95% better, but not 100% better. Under Georgia workers' compensation law, if you do not fully recover from an injury at work, you should receive something called a permanent partial disability rating. This is a rating where the doctor basically evaluates the permanent impairment that you have as a result of a workers' compensation injury. This rating entitles you to some weekly benefits from workers' compensation. Basically, the higher the rating is, the more weeks of weekly benefits of permanent partial disability that you'll receive. The problem is that some people are not aware that they should even receive a permanent partial disability rating. And so they end up with a permanent impairment, but they don't get compensated for that permanent impairment. In other situations, people receive a permanent partial disability rating, but they're not rated correctly. And because of that, they're underpaid for their permanent partial impairment. So, understanding permanent partial disability benefits that you should receive a rating and also evaluating whether the rating is correct or not is very important to make sure you're correctly compensated for your permanent partial disability if you have one. I hope you found the information in this video helpful. If you have, please consider two things before you go. First, I really appreciate if you give this video a like or a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to this channel if you'd like to be notified of future videos in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. Second, if you've got workers' compensation questions, please reach out to get answers. I offer free consultations in Georgia workers' compensation cases. If you'd like to set one of those up, there's two easy ways you can do so. The first is by calling the phone number at the bottom of the screen, and the other is by reaching out to us to our website, which is www.perkinslawtalk.com. Just click on and submit the pre-consultation request form there, and a member of our team will reach out to you and get a consultation scheduled. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video today. I'd like to wish you the best of luck as you recover from your injuries.